On tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast, opening day looms just a couple weeks away. We have an opening day starter. We've got World Baseball Classic PCA updates, and we'll take a look back at everything going on in Mesa for the regular Chicago Cubs on tonight's edition of the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs-related podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Thursday. It is March 12th, Brendan, and you know me. If you're a listener of this show, my math is not always so good. So
we know
bear
that.
with me here. Today's March 12th.
Okay.
Opening day at beautiful historic Wrigley Field is on March 26th.
Okay.
And my math puts us at 2 weeks.
That, 7 plus 7 is 14. I know you can't count to 14 on your fingers,
Checks
but
out.
You're doing a good job.
That's that University of Michigan degree, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Go blue, as they say.
I can add, and I know what a week is.
There you go. It's coming up, Corey. Are you ready? Are you mentally ready yet? Have you done your preparation?
I mean, I was looking at like an early weather forecast for opening day, so I think mentally I am kind of I'm a little ready. Yeah.
I started scheduling everything around the Cubs games. Like I scheduled things weeks in advance.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, like Saturday afternoon game, can't do anything that day. My schedule is booked for the next 7 months, folks.
Yeah, you generally have to make sure that you're like 1:20 to 4-ish window is free of any on video meetings, things like that.
Don't ask me to do anything. It's over.
Yeah. So on tonight's episode, we'll take a look at PCA hitting some bombs in the World Baseball Classic. We'll talk about, other performances there. Javi Assad, obviously pitching for Mexico. Jameson Taillon for Canada. We will take a look at everything going back on in camp in Mesa. Updates there, a couple of injuries that the Cubs are sorting through, in particular, Jordan Wicks, Porter Hodge, and how that may affect the roster construction. We'll keep an eye on the outfield battle with guys like Dylan Carlson, et cetera, et cetera. Where I want to start, though, Brendan, on opening day in a second, because we do have news there. I just want to ask you generally, vague question. Let's say, when the Cubs were in the playoffs last year, it's a tournament, right? Yeah. It's set up. There's rounds. There's rules to how it goes. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you generally feel that Craig Counsell, going into said tournament, knows what the rules are of that tournament?
I would imagine yes, but listen, you never know. It's really hard to remember all the rules. So
when it's your job.
When it's your job, it's even harder. You got a billion things going on. The rules are an afterthought, right, Corey?
Apparently. My answer is 10. I'm pretty confident that Craig Counsell knows the rules of said tournament.
Whenever I'm wrong going forward, I'm just going to say, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I just misspoke. Sorry. Yeah. I knew I just misspoke.
Whoops. Anyway, that was not about anything in particular, just a vague reference.
Relevant.
So getting to opening day, though, we find out this week that Matthew Boyd is going to be your 2026 opening day starter. He gets the nod. Very happy for him. I mean, if you've listened to any number of interviews with him, I know our guy Jared Willis did a nice piece on him and the philanthropic work that his family does. But I think definitely something that Matthew Boyd appreciates this, and how much that matters to fans. I don't know, but he definitely appreciates this. It's not a thing that he will take lightly. And I want to talk more about Boyd and, who the opening day starter is, who the opening day starter maybe will be, years from now, et cetera, et cetera. But with the knowledge that it is Matthew Boyd, Brendan, you're talking about, are you ready for the season? Are you prepared? All this other stuff. we have a matchup. We can break it down. We can anticipate the Cubs lineup now, because it will be Matthew Boyd for the Chicago Cubs and Cade Cavalli, right-hander, for the Washington Nationals. Cavalli with a 4.25 ERA in the 2025 season. So there you go. I mean, we can break down a matchup. We can get into the lineups a little early, but
we can talk about platoon matchups. Should we have Michael Busch bat first or fourth here, Corey?
I have not dug into Cavalli's platoon splits, but presuming we're loading the lineup with lefties. Yeah.
Don't even tempt me. I will say, of all the guys I had hoped to get the nod, now Cade was on my mind, but it was Matthew Boyd.
Yeah.
The reason Matthew Boyd's 35 years old, to your point, been around for a while, deserves it. Last year, 174 innings pitched, by far his most since 2019, a 3.2 ERA, 3.5 Fangraphs WAR. He was the most workhorse-esque pitcher on the roster last year. He deserves it. And he really did settle down there towards the back few weeks. I know he had that one rough start in the playoffs, but came back and did rebound. I am very happy for Matthew Boyd. He deserves it. Also, listen to how Pete Crow Armstrong talks about Matthew Boyd, especially with their All-Star Game experience last year. You know that Boyd is the ultimate professional. You mentioned the philanthropy. He's the ultimate teammate, the ultimate professional. And you want to see guys like that get rewarded, especially for something not meaningless. I'm not going to say that, but inconsequential. First game, well-deserved. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking at this. Cade Cavalli might have reverse splits, so it's funny that
two splits.
Well, anyway, just because I said it, I wanted to look. I mean, the righties hit for a higher average off him last year. So
all right, well, sorry,
there you go.
Sorry, Dylan Carlson, you're off the team.
Yeah. So I do want to read, just this quote from Matthew Boyd. He said, "It's really cool to be out there to start it out. To do that at Wrigley is really, really special. To do it in a Cubs uniform is really, really special. Those aren't things I take lightly. Opening day should be a holiday in Chicago with the buzz and energy that surrounds the field and the city." So you heard it from the man himself. Really, really special. He said it twice. So, and again, just everything you've heard from him and how he goes about things. I think, deep down, he's not just saying that. He really appreciates this. And I think respects the honor of doing it, for such a storied franchise, doing it at Wrigley Field. This is the right call. I mean, he was the Cubs' best pitcher for a good chunk of last season until Cade Horton showed up, and started doing something basically unprecedented. And I think ultimately, this season is going to be interesting because I think if Justin Steele is healthy, I mean, obviously without last year, but generally, I think we would have been operating under the assumption that as long as Justin Steele is healthy, that's his job until somebody takes it from him. He's probably going to be your guy that gets the ball first. This year is going to be interesting because it, I think, hopefully presents this conversation as maybe a much more spirited debate next year with maybe Horton, Cabrera, Steele coming back, being healthy, and maybe there's more of a vying for, who really deserves it. And then you can get into all kinds of arguments about who you're rewarding, et cetera, et cetera. But I think for now it's the right choice. And I'm glad. I'm glad to hear it. And like I said, more than anything, I immediately was like, all right, there you go. We have a matchup. We have a game to get ready for.
Yeah, I will say my first reaction was, man, it would have been cool to see Cade get it. He's got many more years. He'll be your opening starter in 2027, 2028, maybe for the next 4 years if he keeps continuing what he's doing. Boyd, one last stop before we move on. Stuff looks good. No, I know he got lit up in the World Baseball Classic, but the velocity looks good. If you look at the zone profile in those World Baseball Classic games, fastball atop of the zone, the pitch shapes look to be similar to last year. So as much of the age gets brought up in discussion, so far early on, you don't see any off-season age-related decline in the stuff. Across the board, from all the staff, they're looking good. Shota's stuff is up. Cabrera is looking good. Cade Horton is looking good. Tyone had a good start in the World Baseball Classic. The velo may need to inch up a little bit, but generally most of the pitchers look, if not the same as last year, a little bit better.
Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, again, we mentioned a couple of the, injuries in the relief side, but generally, like, guys look healthy, feeling good, and that's all you can really ask for, is that they're in the right spot come the regular season, and then you take it from there with the major league team. Were you, I mean, I know they were losing, and the tournament is a little convoluted at times, but how like jacked up were we when PCA is hitting those home runs?
Oh my God, man. I mean, the style with which he hits the home runs is what caught my eye. The first home run was a 72-mile-per-hour changeup. He's a little bit out in front, just a little bit, but not enough, where he's flailing, stays back just enough to loop the barrel onto the ball, and it flies like a moonshot into the bleachers. The second home run he hit was in mid-80s breaking pitch, not in front, right on time, exploded through the ball. You had two different versions of the swing. Now, this is not an apple-to-apple comparison, but it did remind me. The first person that came to mind who used to do this all the time was Rizzo. Look at Rizzo in the playoffs in 2016 against Kershaw. He's out in front of a Kershaw pitch. He loops it into the bleachers. Look at Game 6 of the World Series where he hit a home run, also loops it into the bleachers. So Rizzo is one of those guys who could adjust mid-pitch. And when Pete did that, I'm like, oh, that kind of looked familiar. Now, has he done that in the past? We'll have to go back and see. But good to see that Pete's adjusting, literally, mid-pitch and hitting home runs.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's just like nice to see them have moments like that in a spotlight like this. And he had struggled for the most part ahead of those, or before those two home runs, but just nice to see him get those moments. It's the same as spring training, like what his average is or anything like that. It's like whatever. Like it's a tournament. It's in March. But it's cool to see him have those moments. I think overall we've talked about it, but just like having this experience, being around players of this quality, players who have reached that ceiling, something that he's really trying to do and maintain consistency in. So I'm just happy he's around it, and nice that he has a couple moments that he can hang his hat on, look back on. Because you never know. Like sometimes guys don't get a lot of playing time in these things. They get a handful of plate appearances or, one outing as a pitcher. And if it goes poorly, then they go back to spring training, and that's kind of all they have. That's all they did.
He's got a great coaching staff too. Very detail oriented, explains all the rules nonstop. So it's a good experience.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It does make you appreciate Craig Counsell.
I'm glad there's not any record of me anywhere like clamoring for Mark Derosa to be the Cubs manager or anything like that. Like that's all I would say.
Yeah. I like Derosa, man. I thought he was very fun in 2008. Yeah. So, yeah.
Anyway. Back to the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, cool to see him have those moments. And, look at for a moment, I think the way it ended up playing out with who won and who didn't, it didn't literally end up mattering. I think because Italy won that game in the last one. I don't know the rules. I don't get paid to know the rules. So,
okay.
But it did, I see it in our YouTube chat. Random Thunk said, I thought PCA was going to single-handedly drag the USA to a win there.
And, well, in my mind, he did. So,
Well, and at certain times, the run differential mattered. The amount of runs scored mattered. So it was cool for a moment. It felt like, hey,
Pete
might be saving this. Yeah, it didn't end up, I don't think, literally working that way. But it was cool that he had those moments. Exciting. And I look forward to the rest of the tournament. I mean, as you and I talked about, like some of these other crowds are amazing. The Dominican Republic game is awesome.
Gosh,
man. It's just incredible television.
Sure.
Watching those celebrations, the guys come out of the dugout. So I really enjoy all of that. Look forward to the rest of it. Maybe PCA, Alex Bregman, somebody has a hero moment in them now that we're in this next round. But yeah, it's been fun. Good to see. Nice for PCA to have some of those moments. So let's hit our first ad break here. We'll come back. We're going to talk about Edward Cabrera, Porter Hodge, Jordan Wicks, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, what if your Wi-Fi just worked? I'm talking no buffering, no dropouts, no fighting for bandwidth, and what if the price stayed the same for 5 whole years? That is the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that actually thinks ahead, a network that's smart enough to find and fix problems before you even notice them. You're streaming the game in the living room, someone's on video calls upstairs, someone else is gaming in the bedroom, and somehow it just all works. Every device, every room in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. Here's the best part. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is included because a lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, dreams get bigger, but your Wi-Fi, that should stay reliable and the price should stay put. Lock in your price, unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at xfinity.com. Imagine that. Select plans only and restrictions do apply. When game day stopped by the office, the biggest thing that stood out to me was how simple their whole process is. Quick, comfortable, completely personalized. You're in, you're out in just about an hour. And it's real care from a local family-owned clinic that actually listens to your goals. For me, my health journey is about one thing: energy to be more active, energy to get on this podcast, to talk to Corey, to feel better, more focused, more motivated in the day-to-day. Because guys, if you're feeling that drop, low energy, less drive, the scale creeping up, hair thinning, muscles getting tight, it could be low testosterone. It's common as we get older, but it's also something you can take control of. Whether your goal is peak performance, weight loss, hair restoration, or just becoming a better man, Game Day builds a plan around you. Therapy, vitamin support, testosterone, medically guided weight loss, and the success rate speaks for itself. You can start at almost any age, late 20s and up. So check out their locations in Skokie, Naperville, Libertyville, and more. Scan the QR code or visit GameDayCHGO.com to find the clinic closest to you.
All right. Back with you, folks. It is funny. So it's only 50 innings, and he doesn't have much at the MLB level beyond that. But like Cavalli's splits,
You're obsessed
extreme.
with this.
It's because I just said it, and I was like, "Oh, it's a righty. Maybe we'll load up on lefties." 427 weighted on base average against righties last year. 285 against lefties. Isn't that just funny though?
Well, I'm about to go to his baseball savant page, and we're going to do a deep dive. Maybe.
And I don't know the minors, whatever, but just I'm just saying, just as I'm looking it up. Anyway. What I want to jump to here, Brendan, I want to talk about Hodge and Wicks, but first, because the start was on Thursday, I want to talk about one Cabrera, our new friend, our new Tommy Hotovy's new toy, however you want to look at. Nice start on Thursday against the spring training Mariners. 3 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. So obviously, I think the no walks is something that we're, sort of always going to be looking at. It's one of the things that, we knew came over, one of the issues, things he needs to work through, areas of growth. But results aside, I know you are digging into what he's throwing, when he's throwing it. And of course, spring training game on March 12th against the Mariners does not equal a regular season game plan or repertoire or anything like that. But anything, I know you're watching all these pitch types and how he's using these things and what they're doing about the fastball. How do they use the changeup? So I'm gonna turn it over to you to dissect what we got on Thursday here.
And listen, it's only been a couple games, right? So you don't want to extrapolate too much.
Start.
Yeah. So unless you talk to the player himself, I'm not going to draw conclusions. What I will say is in this next start, so on March 12th, if you're listening to this on Friday, which was yesterday, he threw once again more four-seam fastballs than sinkers by a significant margin. Here's the breakdown. So on Thursday, through 60 pitches, he threw 15 four-seam fastballs. That's a quarter of his pitches. Last year, he threw a four-seam fastball around 13% of the time. So this is once again like his previous start on March 4th. He's doubling his four-seam usage. As a result, that sinker keeps dipping. Only threw 3 sinkers in 60 pitches on Thursday, March 12th. Again, under 10% once again, like March 4th. Last year, his sinker was his most used fastball. So stay with me here. So we're seeing now in 2 consecutive starts, Cabrera flip the four seam and sinker usage. Okay. That was one thing I was interested in seeing how shapes out during spring, because to your point, he walked fewer guys last year because he threw more sinkers instead of four seams. In 2023, he threw more four seams than sinkers, which associated with a higher walk rate. So the idea was last year, he was able to reduce walks due to more sinkers. The sacrifice was his fastball run value was worse than 95% of big leaguers. So I'm thinking to myself, as spring starts, what if they figure out the four seam fastball? What if the four seam fastball becomes just an average pitch? Because if that's the case, then that 3.6 ERA has a good chance of dropping. And when you have that four seam fastball, this is the benefit to it. I'm going to show what his pitches look like. This is a simulation of literally his stuff. I can download every single metric that you have from Edward Cabrera on Baseball Savant, all StatCast metrics over here. And what you're seeing, I'm going to keep this up. Sarah, keep this up for me. I don't know how to work this thing over here. So what you're seeing is a red four-seam fastball and an orange sinker and a green changeup, okay? Do you see how the green and red is very far away from one another, right? It's called separation. Do you see how the orange sinker and the green changeup are closer together? That's minimal separation. Typically, that value on that changeup increases as a function of separation from your four-seam fastball. If Cabrera can keep that four-seam fastball in the zone, at least according to historical pitchers, you're more likely to increase the run value of those pitches. That's why I'm dialing in on his four-seam fastball. If he has feel for it, there's a realistic chance that the value on that pitch and the changeup actually gets boosted. So keep following that trend as we inch towards opening day.
Cool. Yeah. And if you're listening on your podcast feeds, obviously, Brendan tries to articulate what we're looking at, but over on YouTube, he does often have graphs, and now he's making pitch simulators. So he's taking things to the next level. I don't know where your usual crowd of graph fans is in our YouTube.
I got a whole 10 people who are looking forward to him.
Boy, are they in for a treat. He's animating them now. So yeah,
that is pretty sick though.
Evolving.
I mean, that's literally like every single possible metric you can possibly find. Horizontal release angle, all that stuff. On the top right, if you pause it, you can see everything. This is like literally is like everything he does. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, it's going to be fascinating. I mean, the results have obviously been good so far in the spring, and so much as you care about that. But more importantly, looks healthy and stuff looks good, and it's going to be as we've said, it may not be an immediate significant thing, but just to sort of see how the Cubs utilize a very talented and interesting repertoire of pitches, and just how we kind of, I think that first game is going to be really interesting, and just to see how they're calling pitches, how they're attacking each at bat, how things change, as he's going through the order, second, third time, potentially. It's just going to be very interesting. If you're a student of those things, it's an interesting project, especially like, again, it's a tournament, whatever, but you're watching Owen Casey, playing pretty well over there for Canada in the World Baseball Classic. So it does those results, same as spring training, but it does remind you, like, it's a big trade for both franchises. Cubs gave up their top prospect. The Marlins gave up a guy with a ton of potential with some years of control, and most teams are not in the business of shipping out, young cost-controlled starters as they're trying to win. So it's a big trade for both teams. So it's going to be fun to kind of watch that play out.
Big trade for both teams, and
no pressure.
They're able to land Cabrera because the projections have him as a 4 ERA guy, right? And I think if he were to finish as a 4 ERA guy, you and me would probably be a little bit disappointed, right? It's not a bad season, but we know the ceiling, we know the stuff.
And that's not what they're trading for.
That's not what they're trading for. And then second is the innings load. So he doesn't have bulk innings in his career. and he actually came into the year with a sprained elbow, which I guess if you look at the actual definition of a sprain, it means his like whatever ligament is a little bit torn, right? So that inspires some
Which I'm sure
pessimism.
doesn't keep you awake at night,
Oh, it
knowing
does.
you. I'm
So
sure you've never thought about that. Yeah.
I actually, now here's the thing. I forgot the names that had this injury, but I did go back in time to see, okay, give me every single pitcher who had this exact injury and did they get surgery. And one name that came to mind was Urban Santana, who had it and like had 200 innings, like year in, year out after the same exact injury. So I'm not going to freak out because there's a hit.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's going to be like Urban Santana, right?
Yeah.
But some guys can't pitch through it. And that is the reason why Owen Casey was the only significant piece and not Owen Casey and then some for Edward Cabrera.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. And I've said this before, but it's got to be, I would imagine these types of things are very exciting when you're Tommy Hotovy. And, a lot of these guys, especially with the new tools and the way that they're evaluating pitchers, building pitchers, so to speak, pitch design, all this stuff, like a guy like Cabrera has got to be like, you're salivating to, get the most and do the work for the player and the franchise, but like sort of, to like show what you can do. Like, here's this raw repertoire.
We think blank we can canvas.
Yeah, we think we can do better than what the Marlins were doing. Like, and here's your shot to prove it. Now, of course, there's a human being involved. It's not as simple as that. But I just find it so fascinating. It's just such an interesting trade, and especially when we consider how much of the discussion for so many years of Jed was like risk aversion and long-term maximization and stuff. It's all.
Do you feel that that's a risky trade, giving up Casey for Cabrera?
I mean, I think it's always risky to trade your top prospect in a sense, like there's, Casey has his own holes and things that people can be concerned about just the same. But, you work, you do all the draft work, you do all the prospect work and development work. And just because he's at the top of the Cubs list doesn't necessarily, that's all relative to the rest of the league, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think anytime you give up what is, presumably your best trade asset or young asset, I think there's, inherent risk involved in that.
Of course.
And to your point, like, I don't think they would be, and maybe this depends on what happens with Owen Casey in his career, but I don't think that they would look at that as a successful trade if he were doing the same stuff, as he did, like, for the majority of the time with the Marlins. Like, they're not going to look back then and be like, yeah, that was a good use of our top prospect to get a guy in, the mid-4 ERA. Who walks a bunch of guys, like
the Jose Quintana outcome, right? Like, you just get a guy who you think has a higher ceiling and ends up being around a 4 ERA
and
guy.
You need pitchers like that ultimately, but it's not what you're trading your top prospects to get.
No, absolutely not. And I think the way I viewed this deal more recently after the initial reaction, several weeks ago, like, think of, let's say you have a leak, okay? And you get a paper towel, you got to catch the leak. Just bear with me here. Just let me go with this, right? If you have 2 paper towels, 3 paper towels, 4 paper towels, you have a better chance of stopping the leak. The Cubs have like 10 paper towels and pitchers. Each pitcher is a paper towel, if you will, right?
Wow.
You don't need all 10. You don't, right? But you increases the chances of stopping the leak. Let's say Steele comes back and he's successful. Maybe you don't need Cabrera. You want Cabrera. I want Cabrera. Jed wants Cabrera. But the way that you layer on these different risk profiles, it increases your odds of stopping whatever leakage, whatever breakage you have in the rotation. I like that metaphor.
It works for me as long as I can, finish. Then, when we think of pitchers like John Lester, they are the bounty.
That's right.
Triple ply. Like, you only need the one sheet of that guy, right?
You just need that half sheet and that's it. That's it.
I got to tell you, I didn't think we'd get a paper towel analogy, but I do think it works. I get it.
I appreciate it.
So, all right, let's hit our second ad break here. When we come back, I want to get into just an update, Jordan Wicks, Porter Hodge, and any implications on the bullpen from there.
Okay, let's do it. Sling TV is one of the most flexible ways to watch live TV. With the college basketball tournament coming up, Sling TV gives you access to the games and more control over how and where you tune in. Check this out. Sling has flexible 1, 3, or 7-day pass options. That means instant access to live TV for the men's and women's tournament. You can get a day pass starting at just $4.99, and Sling is celebrating the chaos that everyone loves about the tournament. They are making it more fun to root for the underdogs this year. If you purchase any pass from Sling and the 12 through 16 seed makes it to the round of 16 in either the men's or women's tournament, guess what? Your next day pass is just $1. Get signed up at sling.com/underdog. Live TV your way. Learn more at sling.com/underdog. No purchase is required. To learn more and see the full rules, visit sling.com/underdog. If underdog wins, you win too. Okay, new vehicles are in stock at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and this is your chance to score big during the Car Clearance Madness event. Head to Ray CDJR and Route 12 in Fox Lake and shop one of the largest inventories in the Chicago area with a huge selection of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models to go. Right now, take advantage of 0% financing for 72 months on select new vehicles. If you're looking for value, they've got over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. From the moment you walk in, their team of brand experts is there to guide you every step of the way, making the process simple, transparent, and actually enjoyable, because at Ray CDJR, affordability matters. With Ray's price promise, there are no add-ons and no hidden fees. The price you see, that is the price you pay. It is really that simple. Visit Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or shop online at raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963 and the only dealership we recommend.
All right, Brendan, back with you here, and want to talk about Porter Hodge and Jordan Wicks. Both are going to begin the season on the injured list. Porter Hodge shut down for a few weeks with a flexor strain, and
Sucks.
Jordan Wicks, who's been out for a little bit with some nerve irritation, delayed, and will not be ready for opening day. Now, Brendan, like both of these guys, like I don't know. Hodge is such an interesting case because we've seen him at his best, a guy that we were looking at potentially to be the Cubs closer. Certainly at times when he was at his best was the best reliever the Cubs had. But that is not all of the time. That does not tell the full story, especially recently. Wicks, someone we've seen in long relief. We've seen him start. We've seen him as depth, maybe that next man up from Iowa at times. If the Cubs needed an emergency starter or, whatever befalled the many paper towels in the Cubs rotation.
See, they
need another one. So I just want to talk about the implications there. Again, both guys who, like, I don't know that you're marking them for significant contribution, especially early. I mean, Hodge has a good bit to prove to kind of get back in that standing, and exactly what they would envision the role for Jordan Wicks. I think to start the year, you'd figure keep him stretched out, making those starts in Iowa, and see if you need a starter available potentially later in the year, maybe long relief or helping in a Colin Ray kind of role, Javi Assad kind of role, et cetera, et cetera. But either way, when we talk about the bullpen construction or just the pitching depth construction, and, as it more relates to Wicks, having the depth and having the options matters. And you just want to increase those chances that you find the guys that you trust and who can be relied upon to get you 3 outs every now and again, or, again, in Wicks's case, to start more than likely. So not the news that you want to hear, not earth crushing, but also, sometimes these things pile up, these little injuries. This guy's out for 2 weeks. This guy's out for 3 weeks. And that's where your depth gets tested.
Yeah, and it's disappointing for Wicks, not because of the projections and expectations, but because I personally was curious to see how he would look coming off a healthy offseason. And of course, first few weeks, he has nerve irritation, and you don't get to see that. What I was most interested in seeing from Wicks was the pitch changes. He was working on a new curveball. What are the implications of Wicks going down? Immediately, not as dire. But to your point, you don't know what else is around the corner. What if another injury happens? What if 2 injuries happen? Then it becomes one of those situations where you have to plan for the other worst case scenario. We're not there yet. It's not as immediately impactful per se, especially when you look at the way the current 26 man is going to be projected out. So here's what is going to look like when opening day turns around. Right now, we have Daniel Palencia, Phil Maton, Hunter Harvey, Caleb Thielbar, Hobie Milner, Jacob Webb, Javi Assad, and Colin Ray. Those would be 8 guys. If you want to throw in Ben Brown versus someone else from that mix, that would be 9, and he would take that 8 person's role. That means guys such as Ryan Rollison, Gavin Hollowell, Luke Little, they would start the year in AAA. Ethan Roberts, AAA. Colin Snyder may not make the team if that's the case. So with Wicks' injury, he was probably not likely to make the roster anyway. With Hodge, also, you can make the argument that he may not have made the roster either, just given how they want to extend the possible depth and give guys certain chances who are on NRIs, non-roster invites. So is it immediately impactful? No. Is the ceiling decreased as a result? Yeah, of course. Those are 2 super high ceiling guys that we know at their best can get meaningful outs. In that way, it is disappointing.
Yeah, 100%. But, again, they've taken a volume approach to the pitching staff really in general.
Which is the right approach, I think.
Yeah, I mean, load them up. Load up as many guys as you can. And if Colin Ray is taking starts and, some of these maybe lesser heralded relievers at the moment are, the guys getting your holds or your saves come August or September, it certainly wouldn't be the craziest thing that we've seen.
Happens all the time. I mean, look at Daniel Palencia. He was like slotted for AAA to start the year last year. He ends up being one of the most productive late inning relievers by August. He goes down in September. I thought he blew out his shoulder, gave me a heart attack in Los Angeles over there. And then Brad Keller slots in your other NRI from the previous spring training. You never know how the bullpen shapes up. So the volume approach, to your point, the Cubs are taking, it is the right approach. And if Hodge does come back, let's say, I don't know, June in a bad case scenario, and he figures it out, I would not be shocked at all if he's producing in July, August, and September, just as he was 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, look, ultimately we talk about this a lot, but the relief pitching, it's a thankless thing. It ebbs and flows completely. I mean, I think there are a lot of people, it was Miami. Yeah. That Palencia blew a save in Miami.
I thought it was in Los Angeles, Anaheim. No,
I don't know. It might have happened more than once.
He was good in Anaheim. That's what it was. Because I made a graph that day that was pretty sick about him.
Yeah, the game in Miami. The only reason I bring that up is just because after a moment like that, you have half the fan base. If you told them that this is going to be the closer, this is the guy, they're going to make a video out of Gasolina.
It was not in Miami because they were in Miami in May. Because I saw Kate Horton pitch in Miami in May. Not like I was there, but I remember seeing it in my mind.
No, but anyway, didn't he blow a game in there? No way I'm making that up.
He was not actually in Miami. Maybe he was playing the Marlins, but he was not in Miami. They were in Miami in May. Because here's why. Because Cade Horton was throwing that game. I'm like, he's throwing too many fastballs down in the zone. I remember that vividly. And sure enough, he was. But that was the first start. I don't know who he was facing in September.
I'm talking about Daniel Palencia.
So am I.
Yeah, he lost the game in Miami. I'm looking at it, May 19th.
Oh, I thought you said when he got injured.
No, when he blew the save. Sorry.
Oh.
No.
You got to specify.
I'm like, you know this stuff better than me. Like, how am I remembering this? But no. When he blew that save, and all I was saying was that early in the season, a lot of people were like ready to jump off. And I don't think, could have imagined like that they would be dancing to Gasolina at Wrigley Field with the lights off, thinking this is our closer, let's go, Just an illustration of like the life of a reliever, and especially the fans of said relievers, is very fickle, and it can often be very short.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the show, maybe next week we can talk about it, but I still like I'm allowed one guy to kind of obsess over in spring. Ryan Rollison, I can't.
Let's talk about that, and we'll use this. We'll use this segment as our big takeaway, presented by Xfinity. Imagine that.
Look at that.
Brendan likes this guy, and when you dial in on guys, you're not always right, but I try to listen.
Well, I'm not trying to be right over here. I'm just trying to find some interesting angles. And so I don't have this graph here, so I'm going to show it on my phone. I don't know if you can see this.
Wow.
So you see, let's look at the
Meta.
blue. Let's look at the blue and the red. Okay. See how there's the blue and the blue match up and the red match up. Look out. Look out. Right. Okay. So that is Justin Steele and Ryan Rolison. If you ask the computer, hey, find me Justin Steele's closest relative, pitch DNA. I want to find his closest relative. You know who comes up? Ryan Rolison. Release point, cut fastball, similar angles, similar release angles, everything that you would want as a mirror to Justin Steele, at least according to the Statcast public data, Ryan Rolison possesses. My ears were like antennas when I heard they were working on a new sweeper with Rolison. I'm like, oh, okay. Yep, I see it. Yep, I see it. Craig Counsell's talking about him. I'm like, okay, we got Craig Counsell talking about Ryan Rolison over here. I can see the thinking with what they're trying to accomplish with him. I'm dialed in. I'm imagining what he could be. I'm not expecting it. That's the thing I want to make clear. Not expecting it. It's likely not going to work out. But when you get these extreme examples of experiments, oh yeah, I'm dialed in because it represents what the Cubs are seeing and how successful they are at taking someone like him and making him successful.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting to follow these guys because we even saw it last year. I think often when we're talking relievers, we tend to kind of look at things in a longer window of success than is often the case, and sometimes is often necessary for the team. Like the Cubs, like seeing what they got out of a guy like Drew Pomeranz or Chris Flexen, like you don't necessarily need those guys to be consistent and all of a sudden they're, top tier relievers for the next 5 years. Brendan, for the Cubs purposes last year, they needed it for a couple months. And I think it does help sometimes to contextualize that. Not that it's to suggest that some of these relievers are just lightning in a bottle and they're getting lucky for a couple months or whatever, but it's such it's such a changing process that even if you can get success out of a guy for just a month, a handful of outings, that goes a long way when they talk, Tommy Hodge, Craig Counsell, and they talk about they got a lot of outs to get, they got a lot of the innings to eat. Even those like micro performances, call them. Daniel Palencia is a guy we're looking at to be stable and solid and pitch in high leverage for years. Not everybody has to have that outcome, and it can still be a good outcome. So maybe Rolison's one of those guys.
Absolutely. Chris Flexen, 30 innings last year. That's significant innings. He was good for 20 straight scoreless innings, and then they DFA'd him basically 2 weeks after he gave up his first run. Life is tough, but the 30 innings makes a big difference. You want to know how many innings you need to get in a full season? About 1,400. Why do I know this? Jed Hoyer was on TV talking about it. That's how these guys think about filling out a roster. How do you get around 1,400 innings from a complete roster? How do you get 892 innings from your starting pitching staff across 9 to 10 different options? That's how they think. So when you start adding on 30 from this guy, 30 from this guy, well, guess what? You just filled one consistent relief role in 2 guys who are not even part of your picture in December. That is value. Sometimes you pay a premium on the open market to get 60 innings of average value. It's expensive. So it does make a huge difference, and it's why I like following these stories.
All right. So there you go. Ryan Rolison is Brendan's man to watch. The reliever of the summer. I don't know.
One per year.
Yeah. All right. So that is our big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. We are going to hit our last ad break here, and then we'll come back. I want to ask Brendan how comfortable he feels about Matt Shaw playing first base, manning first base on a regular basis. And we'll keep taking a look at everything going on in Mesa as we are 2 weeks out from opening day.
Okay. Can you believe we're already a quarter into 2026? If you're like me, the hardest part of sticking to goals is just staying consistent when life gets chaotic. That's actually why I've been using Huel. The Huel Black Edition ready to drink has been clutch for mornings or days when I'm bouncing between things normally would skip a meal. It's literally a complete meal. You can just grab and go. 35 grams of protein, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, no artificial sweeteners, colors, or flavors, and gluten-free. Honestly, is faster than making breakfast, and it keeps me full for hours, and it's under $5 a meal. So for me, the combo is simple. Ready to drink when I'm sprinting through the day, powder when I want to build something. If you're trying to stay consistent this year, this combo makes it stupidly easy. You can get 15% off your order with my code Cubs15 at Huel.com/Cubs15. New customers only. Thanks to Huel for supporting the show. Spring, thank God, it is finally here, and Hooters has some great specials going on right now. First up, the deal of the season. You can get 10 boneless wings or 10 buffalo shrimp served with curly fries or tots for just $9.99. If you're in the mood for more of a seafood option, check out the Big Fish Sandwich. Perfectly seasoned cod, grilled, blackened, or hand battered and fried. Or go big with 1 pound of snow crab legs served with warm drawn butter and fresh lemon. They've got those drink specials too. Don't forget that. Keep it cool with a $6 legendary margarita, or grab Dos Equis or Coors Light 22-ounce Big Daddy mugs. And if you want to finish strong, the funnel fries with chocolate dipping sauce, fan favorite. You can watch any game at the 11 Chicagoland locations, or order Hooters to go if you're watching from home. Find your nearest location at originalhooters.com.
All right, Brendan, I want to ask you how you're in person in Arizona with all of our guys. Justin, Joey,
that's right.
Sarah was there as well, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. How was it to be in the presence of the Maverick, Luke Stuckmeyer?
Oh my gosh. When you're in the presence of a multi-Emmy Award winner, it is like being in the presence of a divine figure. We had a great time. We did miss you though, Corey, I will say. We actually mentioned.
I doubt that. Yeah.
No, we did. I think Luke sent you a photo of us. We took a selfie. I don't know where the selfie went.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it, right? Yeah. See, we're thinking of you. Always thinking of you.
Yes. I just had to know. So.
Oh, look at that. Wow. And by the way, I did not intentionally tuck in my shirt there. I got some flack for it. The video that we posted, my shirt's not tucked in. So I don't know what the hell was going on. Just saying.
Well, I like it. French tuck.
I know. I took offense to that. I don't know why. I was very self-conscious about it.
I don't know. Anyway, back to the Chicago Cubs. It was interesting that Matt Shaw got to start at first base. I mean,
we were joking about it 2 weeks ago.
We joked about that because at a certain point, if you're going to try to play him everywhere, and if you end up in a situation where you feel like this bat must be in the lineup, give him every kind of glove you have in the locker room and let it. I mean, I don't think he needs to try being a catcher, but
you don't know that.
I mean, maybe give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect it a lot, but with the Tyler Austin injury, Jonathan Long getting hurt, being delayed, et cetera, like,
why not?
Contingency plans are good to have. And at the very least, like, one game out there isn't going to determine whether a guy can hang or not, but different angle to receive the ball, different footwork, all that other stuff, get a handful of reps out. That's what Mesa's for. That's what spring training's for.
What I want to know is how often Shaw played first base growing up, because I never played first base. You want to know why? Because I'm not the tallest guy. I'm like,
I thought you were going to say because the best guy on the team doesn't, play shortstop or something like that.
Well, you're thinking that, which is, by the way,
that's what I thought you were going to say.
Very true. But I just never played because I was like the smaller guy. So I do want to know, did he play a little bit in high school? Did he play a little bit in college, Little League? When was the last time Matt Shaw played first base? It is difficult with the footwork. You try to go mess around out there. You're shuffling around. You're trying to find where to put your foot in the on the bag. It can be challenging. So I was genuinely surprised to see Shaw there because, yeah, we're joking about it. And, yeah, it is kind of funny. But truthfully, it is a difficult position to learn when you've never played it.
Yeah, I understand that, but it is interesting. I love them, throwing stuff around. I have no issue with them.
I always thought Hap would just play first base. Like he's done it in the past. Like if you need an emergency first baseman, just put Hap there,
I guess it's Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw needs a home, so they're trying to
Sure.
find one for him.
Sure.
All right, last 10 minutes here. I mean, anything I'm curious, we talk about some of those bullpen or pitching staff, depth injuries. We've got some positional player depth injuries. Anybody standing out to you in spring that is maybe one of those bubble guys on the roster? Some of those final outfielders in the Carlson, McCormick, Conforto camp, or any of these relievers. Again, like I don't know that Hodge or Wicks would have necessarily been guaranteed a spot on the opening day roster anyway. But just as you're watching some of these other performances, guys that you're feeling like, I think this guy's earned a shot, or I'd like to see it.
Two guys, Carlson. I just like the way he's approaching his at-bats. It's spring training. So to get so hung up on results is a mistake. That being said, I just like the way he approaches his at-bats. Now you can look at the 31 plate appearances. You can see, he's had about 13 hits. He's been in 409. But what I like is he's walking in a quarter of those plate appearances. So I think that is encouraging for a guy who is trying to fight for a roster spot, showing just, again, in a small sample, just patience. I mean, this is someone who's trying to make the team, and he's exuding patience at the plate. So I like that. The second guy that I enjoy watching, Hobie Milner. The reason is I can already see him being used in back-to-back days against a tough lefty portion of the lineup. I can also see him being used against right-handed batters, and you're seeing some signs of what's to come. The changeup from that angle should fade away from righties. The four-seam fastball may spike in usage, just like Edward Cabrera. If that happens, you have a guy who can get lefties and righties out. In a weird way, I'm watching Hobie Milner. You know who comes to mind? The name? Steve Cishek.
Yeah.
Right? And Steve Cishek had
Madden away from him.
That's right. Well, he's still somewhere throwing 90 innings a year. Let me tell you that, in a different universe. But Steve Cishek was useful against both-handedness. Funky release angle, can get lefties out, righties out. I see a lot of similarities, and also very skinny, lengthy guys, right? I see a lot of similarities in Hobie Milner from the left side.
Yeah, I'm more than anything, I think I'm just curious about this this outfield battle. It's just an interesting group.
Do you have a preference? Do you care?
I don't
Not
think
really.
so. I mean, it's an interest. I think I'm intrigued maybe more by Conforto or
Same.
Carlson.
I think maybe more Conforto, just because he was more recently very good.
That's what's interesting about this group is that, again, in some years, some of these guys competing for these spots are minor leaguers, rookies who don't have any MLB experience. And this is a group where it's different. They have proof of concept, so to speak, but not most recently. And I just think that's the most intriguing. It's probably the area of the team that is the most uncertain as far as what decision they are ultimately going to make. Now, different contracts, right? So there are certain implications. If certain guys make the roster, they make more money. So there's more in effect to it. And I always find it interesting, Brendan, because it does square, I wholeheartedly believe when you and I talk every week about whatever happens in spring training, I don't care about these results, et cetera, et cetera. But this is all the Cubs have for some of these decisions. Now, obviously, they're going to go and look back at past years and prior success and think about how can we tap into this? How realistic is it that we can tap into this, et cetera, et cetera. But, those three guys in particular are new to the organization. They have no frame of reference with this group or this team. And you kind of have to make a decision based on what's going on in this short period of time, which is not a decision that I envy, a baseball front office having to make, because ultimately sometimes you got to let these guys go. You got to let them clear waivers if they're not the one that's making the team. And, likely it's probably not a decision that is so significant in the long run, but there's certainly a reasonable outcome where if we looked in the future, one decision is right and another decision is wrong.
Yeah, I think there's a way to make it all work because you do have injuries to Austin. You can see Carlson and Conforto making the team. McCormick can go to the minors. So he does have an option left, and his contract does allow him. Some guys have certain clauses. With him, he can go to AAA, and he would probably actually prefer it because he can get an opportunity likely with his organization. Like last year, the one takeaway on opening day that stuck with me was how they maneuver the positional side around. We had Vidal Brujan on the team for a significant chunk of the year. I thought there was a competition between him last year and other guys trying to vie for the team. They all like made the team. Vidal Brujan like was someone who I already X'd out.
Yeah.
And he like made, so I think it's going to work. I do think we're going to see both Carlson and Conforto make the team, however it lands. And I guess in a way, I'm not saying it's a good thing because they signed Austin to a major league deal. But for 3 months, whatever it is, he can come back in June healthy. You get kind of a little bit of a runway with Conforto, who just had 20 home runs 2 years ago and a 353 weighted on base average, batting 237. Like, I'll raise my hand. I am very intrigued about that. And then you get Dylan Carlson with the former top prospect status, showing some athleticism, versatility across the outfield. Again, I'm very intrigued by that as well. So I'm not going to say it's a silver lining. I'm not going to say injuries are always like a blessing in disguise. Not going to say that. I am, however, interested in seeing a longer runway for both those guys.
Sure. And look, like even a couple of guys that maybe would have had, I think Austin certainly had an inside shot. We've talked about Jonathan Long as well. Those are unproven. Right. Austin's coming back from a different country. Like, he's played at this level before, but what that looks like in 2026 and the opportunities that he might have gotten, it's not a sure thing either. Even if that, still I would look at that as like, I would prefer he have not gotten hurt. I was intrigued to see him get that opportunity and what they could unlock there. But it's not as though they had, these surefire options. So I think it's a good group. There's obvious potential there if they can get it back in some of them. And I'm curious to see how that plays out when they make these decisions, whatever. And yeah, I like your, sort of thought process with like Brujan too. Like some of these guys, it's not always easy to maneuver with options and waivers and stuff like that. But sometimes you're just keeping guys around for one skill, one thing. And, for Brujan, obviously for the most part was speed, it's base running. Other guys, it can be, we need a pinch hitter that has some pop because occasionally we are in those situations. So again, with roster construction and maneuvering, it can get hard to have that luxury at times. But that is sometimes how you look at some of these players and some of the guys that you keep around, either as a bench piece or in the minors, on that kind of Iowa shuttle, just to have those particular skills that you might want to tap into from time to time.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I'm looking at this, Conforto gets an opportunity, Carlson gets an opportunity, McCormick will get an opportunity at some point, Austin will get an opportunity or a look at some point. You will see a rehab stint for Austin that may not have happened if he wasn't injured, like going to Iowa. So you have 4 opportunities to really explore for an extended period of time leading up to the trade deadline, right around June. Then you can reassess and say, okay, you know what? We do need that 4th outfielder to hit lefties. We do need the extra speed guy to come in late in the game because our roster is stacked. We just want to fill out the missing pieces. So in a way, the timeline does work out.
Yeah. So very curious to see what they do there. And that, of course, is what these last, week and a half or so of spring training is for the Cubs to figure out. I think that's really what we're waiting on them to figure out is, who exactly is making this team in the bullpen and who is finishing off this bench. But otherwise, as we said at the outset, we have an opening day matchup. It'll be Matthew Boyd and Cade Cavalli at Wrigley Field on March 26th.
Are you going to the game?
Oh, I told you last week. I already got my PTO in, man.
So you are going to the game.
Gotta be prepared. Yeah, of course.
What's the forecast? You look
right now like 45.
Is that what it is? 45.
It's been worse, so I'll take that.
Well, your seats are like in the shade, so you get the
They are.
extra 5-degree dip, I think.
That's true. Less wind, but yeah.
I mean,
So
your seats are fantastic. Away
either
from everyone,
way,
I love
as
it.
I say all the time, I'll get it wrong. If I put on 12 layers, I'll wish I had a 13.
I mean, just
You
put
know
on
what I
that
mean?
Cubs World Series beanie they always talk
Yeah.
about, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
John Lester jersey, hoodie.
So a couple weeks left of spring training. And then, of course, things get underway. The World Baseball Classic. Don't forget to tune in to Luke, Joey, Justin throughout the week. Thank you to our wonderful producer, Sarah. Brendan and I will be back with you next Thursday as we get closer to opening day. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.